Hi,
Good.
welcome. This is Dick Malcolm, Chair of the Community Center Building Committee. We are recording this meeting. The following guidance issued by the state in 2020 regarding the open meeting law. This public meeting will be held remotely, and individuals wishing to participate may do so by utilizing Zoom video conference technology. To join the meeting by video conferencing using a computer, tablet, or phone, please see the join meeting information on the agenda, which is posted on the town website. So I'll do a roll call of the committee members present. David Billings,
Yes.
Luciana Birdie. She
She said
is saying,
yes.
I am here. We just can't hear her. Ruth Townsend,
Yes.
and myself, Dick Malcolm, which means we have four of us, so we have a quorum. So the first order of business is to approve the minutes of February 12th, 2024. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second? Is there a second?
Second.
Great. I'll poll the board. The committee, excuse me, David Billings,
Yes.
Luciana,
She said approved.
approved. Thank you. Ruth,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well. Okay, with that, our next agenda item takes us into Al's court. And so why don't you take it away?
Thank you, Dick, and thank you everyone for joining. So looking at the construction progress during the month of February, which is the payment that we're going to be recommending approval for the contractor. So the conduit up to the transformer was installed by the electrician. The hunch detail fix, there was some rebar that was missing at the pavilion slab, and a detail fix had to be designed by the structural engineer. That has been installed and signed off. CMU has been completed at the gym. At the 1910 building, the grade beam was installed, and rough in the attic, rough electric in the attic also began. It is now the 11th of the month, so since the beginning of March, additional progress includes preparing up the slab at the gym building for concrete. Concrete is anticipated to be placed tomorrow. So the dense grade vapor barrier and rebar has been completed, and you'll be able to see it in one of the pictures. Additionally, the underground electrical is ongoing at some of the common areas. You'll be able to see that as well. Upcoming activities, we're planning on placing both the gym slab and the pavilion slab this week. Additionally, once the gym slab is poured, we're going to be going back and completing the CMU leave out. We needed to leave a portion open for access, as well as starting the structural steel in the gym building and starting some of the site storm drainage structures. Any questions on the progress? Okay, so let's look at some. Oh, sorry, someone take something? Okay, looking at some photos. So in the pavilion building, the picture on the left, there was not a whole lot of progress from during the month of February. And that's because, like I mentioned, we were working on that hunch detail fix around the perimeter. Like I said, that's done, signed off. We're also currently working in some of the kitchen plumbing areas. I'm gonna go over some of that work in a bit. The picture on the right shows the status of the mock-up. As you can see, the windows have been installed, and they're currently, this picture is from today, they're currently working on the brick so that we can select the window finish. At the gym building, these two pictures are from the beginning of February, and the picture on the right shows the status of the CMU was about 10 feet high in this picture back in the beginning. And pictures from today shows what it looks like. The one on the right shows you that vapor barrier, so that the slab area, it's essentially ready to receive the concrete. Again, concrete placement for the slab is anticipated tomorrow. Moving on, the picture on the left shows some on the right side of the picture, there's a yellow jacket. That's where the transformer is gonna go. So that conduit is installed. And the picture on the right shows additional underground conduit between the 1910 building and the gym building on the left. At the 1910 building, the grate beam was placed and the column was installed. reinstalled. That column was there before, was an existing column. And the picture on the right shows some of the site storm structures that are stored on site. Any questions on the pictures? All right, moving on to the construction schedule. We just got a revised schedule today. I still have to go through it, but it looks like the contractor, the good news is that it looks like the contractor has a path to completing the project on time, essentially, with the 28 days extension as a result of the asbestos abatement. We hit a few bumps in the road over the last month and a half or so that we had to work through, and it looks like they still have a path to completion within those 28 days. So that's good news. And final completion is anticipated in the beginning of November. Any questions on the construction schedule? Okay, looking at the budget, we had a couple of transfers for 2 change orders that we approved through the expedited method in order to keep the project on schedule. I'll go over what those are in a bit. Moving on to column D1, I am gonna go over the invoices for the month of February. We had 6. Those are the cells that are highlighted in yellow. This is where they were coded to. Moving to the right in column E, right now we're looking at worst case scenario, assuming with all potential change orders known, we're looking at about $193,000 in potential exposure. Moving on to the column on the right, I all the way to the right on the bottom, assuming that all of those known potential change orders were to be approved as presented, we would have around 85% contingency left, which is about $2 million. So we're looking good there as well. Any questions on the budget? All
How
right,
much should we
so,
pay to date on the construction?
3.7.
That's what, okay, so that's not this invoice, that's total to paid to date.
Oh, that does include this invoice. Yes, because I coded that to
Okay.
to the budget. Yes,
All right.
which
Okay.
is it's about 230,000. I think this invoice is not a big one.
Oh, I see, all right, yeah. I got the invoices later, okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so digging more into the details, like I mentioned, starting with the left side, the direct construction costs. Like I mentioned, we had 2 change orders that we approved to the expedited method in order to keep the project on schedule. One of them was the additional sprinklers that we mentioned before for $5,700, as well as some plumbing changes in the pavilion area around the kitchen as a result of the plumbing inspector / authority having comments with the authority having jurisdiction over the project. Today, we want to vote on a total of 4 potential change orders. The first one is a fire protection, the isolation valves. We discussed this one at the last building committee meeting, and there was a request for additional detail to sort of justify the cost benefit analysis of these valves. So what we did is we went back and scheduled a meeting with the fire chief, deputy fire chief, David Tiberi was there as well, and Walter Avalon, the building commissioner. So we sat down and we went over the potential change order, and as a result of that, essentially what it comes down to is the authority, the fire department and the building commissioner, as the authority having jurisdiction over the project, they are requiring that these valves be put in for life safety. Essentially, these are some of the comments that came up during that meeting. The town of Dover is not set up to provide a fire watch, and so if there is an issue without these valves, if there's an issue with one of the tanks, the entire building just has to be shut down. There's no other way, because the town is not really set up to provide a fire watch. And the other thing that they noted is during that time, while the building is shut down, the building is essentially unprotected. And so that is, if there were to be a fire event, for example, during that time, that will be a life safety concern with the fire personnel, and as well as property preservation. If we were to install these valves, essentially, if something happens with one of the tanks, the other tank can provide sufficient coverage where the building can remain open. And without a fire watch. Essentially, the building can be monitored remotely, and like I said, one tank alone can provide sufficient coverage so that it can essentially continue operating as normal. Additional notes that we discussed during that meeting is, these tanks are fiberglass, so they are durable tanks, and per the fire protection subcontractor, they are meant to be maintenance free. However, one of the examples that, for example, David Taveri brought up during that meeting is, like with gas stations, those are fiberglass tanks, and sometimes they do leak. The leaks could be from the tanks, but also it could be from the pipes, and therefore, if a leak were to happen, then it goes back to being able to keep the building open and life safety. The tanks have a 1-year warranty for defects and workmanship, and the cost to refill one of these tanks is about $2,000. Any questions on that change order?
All right, so it comes down to the fire chief wants these valves. I think we need to explain why they were part of the original design. I don't have any problem with them, but I just want to make sure that you've got that for when the selectmen ask.
Yep. So yeah, I mean,
okay.
Yeah, so they weren't required by code, but technically, I guess the code sometimes lifts it up to the authority having jurisdiction to make the final call, and so they are being required by the HDM.
All right, and basically, if we had them in the original bid, the cost would be about the same except for the markup.
Correct.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I think that's something you need to stress with the selectmen too, that this is a benefit to the town, and that this is not, if we had them in the original design, the cost would have been, 21,000 as opposed to 23. There's something along those lines. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that this is, this isn't a want, the fire department is requiring, and as the authority of jurisdiction, they have the ability to require this. And we've got this, we also have this in writing.
Okay, good.
Should we, any additional comments, Dick, do you want to do the vote now, or should we do it at the end once we go over all of these?
Yeah, so no, I think let's just vote on each one of these individually. So is there a motion to recommend for approval PCO number 7 fire protection tank valves?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I'll poll the board. David Billings,
Yes.
Luciana,
She approves.
she's approved. Thank you, Ruth. Ruth,
Yeah.
and I am a yes as well. Okay, Al, if you could take us to the next one.
Sure. The next one will be still modifications that comes down to coordination as well as heating conditions. And Katie, I talked to you about this one earlier, and you can do a much better job than I can at explaining it if you don't mind taking us through this one.
Sure. So this is one where the original detailing that we had for the new construction right up against the 1910 building was very typical. We had a very small angle that was being welded to the steel. After exploration and some demo of the building, and once the 1910 footing was exposed, we could see that it was much deeper than we had realized. So what that does was it really just moves all the steel away from the 1910 building. So what that means is the new columns and all the steel that we owned had to be adjusted, but then we had more of a cantilever. So this is, it's a combination of unique detailing. So it's detailing by the steel fabricator. It's a much more robust angle that we have. It's a bent plate. It's deeper, taller, thicker. And it also required quite a bit more welding in the field. So it's more labor. So it's a couple of things, but really it was, I would call it a hidden condition. And because of the condition of the foundation, this is how we needed to detail it.
Thank you, Katie. And with all of these PCOs that we're presenting here, we've reviewed these with the design team. I've looked at them as well. And on some of these, we went back and forth a number of times, and we feel that the pricing is fair, reasonable, documented, and we recommend that they be approved.
Okay, is there any other, before I poll the board, is there any other discussion?
Nope.
Okay, I'll poll the board for recommendation of approval for steel modification. David Billings,
Yes.
Is there a? excuse me.
Motion.
Motion, a second, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, now I'll poll the board. David Billings,
Yes.
Luciana Birdie,
She's approved.
he's approved. Ruth
Yeah.
Townsend, and I am a yes as well. Okay, the next PCO on the list, Al, if you could take us through this one, elevator panel electrical changes.
Yes, so that is, my understanding is that has something to do with a switch, but Katie, I think maybe you can speak to this one a
Yeah,
little bit
thank you,
more.
Al. I can jump into this one. So we had 3 base of design manufacturers, Kone, Otis, and ThyssenKrupp. What was submitted was a Delta Beckwith. We have a very traditional 3,500 pound passenger elevator. And so because we went with a Delta, it's slightly different. And this just came down to the phasing and the electrical requirements. So it's some pretty small work to adjust some wiring and some fixtures associated with the elevator. And I think it was just over $1,200.
And similarly, we looked at this one with the engineers, and
Yeah.
we feel like the pricing is it's good and fair,
Yeah.
reasonable.
Yes, agreed.
Any further discussion on this proposed change order, potential change order? If not, then I would like to, is there a motion to recommend for approval this PCO for elevator panel electrical changes?
Motion.
Is there a
Second.
Great, okay, I'll poll the board. David Billings,
Yes.
Luciana,
I can't tell whether it was for this or. Nope, she says, okay, yeah, another
Okay.
approval.
okay, thank you, Luciana. Ruth?
Yes.
And I am a yes as well. Okay, then the last one is enclosed office construction. Al, if you could take us through that, please.
Sure, that's the one that we've all been waiting for a while. So yeah, this one, FMA issued the construction documents back towards the end of January. Contractor has been working through the pricing on that one. We received this one, the pricing back on Friday, and I actually have it open here. We were estimating our rough order magnitude when we didn't have any documents or anything was around 50K, conservative estimate. Total came back at around 30,000. So that's the good news there. Now we did, like I said, we did get this on Friday, and overall, just looking at the costs, they seem to be, they seem to make sense. There's no real surprises there. As you can see, there's a number of trades that are involved. Just to take you through some of them, we have HVAC, doors, product for doors, frames, and hardware, acoustical ceilings, electrical, glass, signage, painting. There's a number of trades involved here. Now, the only thing that we are waiting on is a couple of these. We don't quite have the backup for it, meaning we don't have a quote from the subcontractor. We did request that. However, again, a lot of these, seem to make, just installation of the hollow metal door, frames, doors, and hardware, $650. That, in my mind, seems to be reasonable, but we don't have that backup yet. For that reason, now I think that this number, this 30,000, it's not going to go up, but we did go back on a couple of things. So some of the quantities are, three signs. We only have one door. We think maybe, that should be one sign. So we went back on a couple of things, not big dollar value items.
Mhm.
And we feel that number could come down a little bit. So what I was thinking is that in order to keep this thing moving, perhaps we can vote on a not to exceed of 30,000. And that would allow us to finalize a couple of these items with the general contractor over the next couple of days and have a final number that we feel, hey, now we feel like we have all the documentation for it.
Okay, is there any more discussion on actually, this, what Al has just got on the screen right now?
Does
So
the
what you're saying
electrical,
is, sorry,
no, go ahead, Ruth.
no, you go, Dave.
I was just gonna ask if the electrical includes also the data. Doesn't,
It does.
Data
There's
and,
actually-
and power, okay,
Yeah, so it's electrical and data. So the electrical subcontractor owns both 26 and 27 divisions. And
Okay,
so
yep.
with the new office, yes, you've got some power and some additional data, and a few things got shifted.
Okay, that's fine. That's it.
So the next step is going out to get the actual quotes from subcontractors, yeah?
We have most of those. So all of these here, essentially, like HVAC, we have a quote and a breakdown for that. So that we're okay with. Same thing with the electrical that Dave Billings just pointed out. We have the backup for that. We have the quote for
Yeah.
that. There's a couple of them that we're missing. So some of these, for one of them is the gypsum board. It's 3,500. That number was
Oh,
put
and then
in.
there were the ones that you needed to go back and just query. Okay, got it. Sorry.
Exactly.
I'm keeping
exactly.
up.
Yeah, no, that's good.
No, Al's being thorough with this, so thank you for that.
Yep.
Okay, any other questions on this?
Looks good.
So, basically then, is there a motion to recommend for approval this PCO for enclosed office construction? Not to exceed $30,237. And
Motion.
we're not approving, remember, we're only approving the construction cost for this. We're not, we don't have, this was a request to put by the selectmen to, to design this into the project.
Yeah, one quick question. Any schedule impact that the contractor is putting in, so there's no additional GCs beyond the markup?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Then motion?
Second. Great, and I'll pull the board. David Billings,
Yes.
Luciana.
I can hear. Thank you.
Yay!
Oh, yay.
Thank you.
Okay, was that a yes?
Yes, was a yes.
Thank you. Ruth,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well. Okay, Al, what's next?
Excellent. On this slide, we highlighted in yellow under the pending. There's two new ones that we're working through those. So we're going to continue working through that until we feel like we're ready to vote on it. Nothing really has changed on the right side on the soft costs. There's no new additional services that I'm aware of. And contingency, again, worst case scenario, all these PCOs that you see here get approved as presented. We're looking at around 86% remaining contingency. So we're looking good there.
Okay, Al, the PCO 17, the plumbing changes, is that from Aquarian?
It's not from Aquarian. That is from the plumbing inspectors. Came on site and he understood the kitchen to be more on the commercial side of things and requested some additional piping work to the grease trap. The way that it was designed, I think we saw the kitchen, we intended more as a warming kitchen. And so it was more of a plumbing inspector authority having jurisdiction over the project interpretation of the code.
All right, have you gone through this design with Aquarian? Because they have very demanding requirements for backflows.
Not specifically, but
Okay.
we can look into that.
Before you wrap up 17, have a meeting with Aquarian and find out what they're gonna require.
We'll look at it.
And who is Aquarian?
That's the water company.
Okay.
Oh, and my understanding is that we actually went back and forth a couple of times. We've been just recently going back and forth on that because the way that the project was designed, we were tapping into the Aquarian domestic water line. But my understanding now, talking to Carl and the DPW, it looks like we need to tap into the town water line. There's another water line.
Town doesn't have a water line. Town's water lines are polluted. The only water in town is Aquarian.
Okay.
From my understanding, unless someone telling me, but that's what I understood, is that the town system got gasoline in it from the gas leak years ago.
Yeah, the
And
mold.
And then the only water system, and it used to be Dover Water, and then Aquarium bought it. So, and I've dealt with Aquarium out on other projects. They own a couple of towns' water systems. And they require like separate backflows for they have a lot of requirements that I would make sure that you sit down with them as soon as possible with it.
Okay, yeah, I don't know what's going on there. You know, I'll ask Carl about you know, bring this up to Carl and ask him about it. Because yeah, the last we heard is we were told that we need to tap into the other. There's two water lines along Springdale, and we were asked to tap into the other one, which my understanding is that that was a town water line, not the Aquarium line. So, but I'll bring this up. We're meeting tomorrow during the OAC, so I'll bring it up and we'll talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, David. Okay. Anything else on a change orders contingency log? All right, looking at the invoices, like for the month of February, like I mentioned earlier, we have a total of 6 invoices. We have the general contractors invoice number 8 for a total of $232,000, $998. That's actually a bit low compared to some of the other months, and it's because, like I said, we hit a couple of bumps in the road that we, for the most part, have been able to get past. And you know, like I said, we're gonna pour 2 slabs this week, hopefully, and have a lot more activity happening. So essentially, the contractor's payment application is mostly for general conditions, CMU, labor and materials at the gym building, limited electrical work in the attic, electrical equipment, and the dock bank that goes up to the transformer. Other invoices for the month of February are our Collier's typical invoices every month. That doesn't change, 21,154. We have FMA's February invoice of 36,548. We have 2 invoices for January and February for Bricks. They are the third-party materials testing company for 47,57 and 32,63. And we have Eagle Leasing's typical monthly invoice of 398 for the storage containers. I have reviewed all these invoices and I feel that they are in line with the contract terms. And I recommend that they be consistent with the work performed, and I recommend that they be approved.
And this is something we want the committee to also vote on. So,
Yes.
is there any further discussion on invoices? If not, is there a motion to approve the February invoices in the amount of $299,118.43?
Motion?
Second.
Okay, I'll poll the board. David Billings,
Yes.
Luciana Berti.
Yes.
Nice to hear your voice. Ruth,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well. Thank you.
Excellent. All right. So, you know, with the looking back at the enclosed office, the next step would be to finalize those couple of last items to the general contractor and presenting it to the Board of Selectmen for voting. And we're hoping that's going to happen within the next 2 weeks so that we are on schedule with the framing in the office area.
Has it gone to the selectmen to ask them if there's going to be a meeting that they can do that in?
It has not.
Hey, John.
Hi, Ruth. No, it hasn't yet.
John, do you know when the next Board of Selectmen's meeting is going to be?
Thursday. I'm sorry. Not this Thursday, but next Thursday. We had a meeting on last Thursday.
Got it. Okay, so that gives us a little bit of time. We have a couple of things to finalize with that change order. So that's good to know.
John, can that be booked in for Thursday? Does Al need to go through Mona?
Yes, please. And yes, it can.
Thanks.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Next one, it's good news on the project. We were approved by the Mass EBIP grant, and we think we're going to be able to max out the reimbursement of $50,000 on the project. Today, we actually received the only thing we were waiting on is for Mass EBIP to sign the contract. We got it signed today. We actually received the notification that we were approved back on the 27th of February. It was accepted by the Board of Selectmen on the 7th of March. And this is just a breakdown of how it covers both equipment costs for the electrical vehicle charging stations, as well as the infrastructure or make-ready costs. And so this is a breakdown showing what we're anticipating. And once that work is in place and we get billed for it by the contractor, we'll be able to submit for rate reimbursement. So again, we're going to be able to max that out. We're anticipating we're going to be able to max it out. That's good news.
That's great. Thanks for your work on that.
Mm.
Thank you. Any questions on this? All right. Any citizen comments?
Do we have any
Ruth,
other grants that are in the process?
Any other?
Grants?
Not in the process. We're all set. We have another grant with Eversource, and essentially we're already approved for that. And as long as we when we get billed for it by the contractor, we'll submit for reimbursement.
And we're still continuing to keep a lookout for any other applications that we could make.
Yeah, if anything comes up, like let me know. Like the other one that you brought up last time, I feel like we almost made that one by only a couple of years to the building, age. But yeah, anything else that comes up, let me know and we can take a look at it.
Is there anybody else looking out? Because I know I'm not probably the expert to look into particular areas or to know where these grants can be found. Al.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Yep. If you come across anything, by all means,
But
bring it up
that's
and we'll-
Al, that's what I'm saying is I don't,
Mhm.
if I do
Oh.
come across it, I will, but I doubt I'm going to be
Mhm.
probably in the field where I need to be to see these or hear about them.
Yeah. I mean, these are the ones we apply for, the ones that we're aware of that we thought we could get, which are both of these, Mass EVIP and Eversource. I'm not aware of any other ones, but
you'll
yeah.
keep your eyes and ears open.
Yeah. If anything else comes
Thank
up,
you.
we'll look into it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any future business?
I can just say very quickly that there's another site visit for the students this Wednesday. It's an early release day. So we're going to be meeting Al and Ed at the construction site at 1 o'clock. If anybody else would like to join us, everyone's more than welcome.
Okay, thank you for the heads up on that one, Ruth.
Ruth, so Dick, could I ask a quick question before you move on to the final topics? So again, John Jeffries, Board of Selectmen. So I've received complaints from the neighbor on the Whiting Street side with regards to the construction, specifically a generator and air conditioning unit that's going to go apparently very close to his property. I vehemently objected to this when we were in the design stage of the process and wanted the whatever it is, a generator or air conditioning units. And I believe he called it a diesel generator that's going to go in, being in the process of being built right now. First of all, is that true? Is the wall that's being constructed right now in place for a diesel generator? And is the design still showing the air conditioning unit and the generator on the residential side of the building?
Yeah, I think Katie, can you address that one?
Sorry, just 1 second. That took me a minute to get to unmute myself. Okay, so I guess I would say there's a couple of things. And I apologize because I probably can't share right now. That would actually be the most convenient. And I'm wondering, Al, by any chance, if you have a site plan that you could,
yes.
you already have this, you already have something shared, that would be fantastic.
Yes, definitely. I am pulling it up right now.
Katie, I can let you share as well.
Okay, well, if Al, if you want to open up, let's see, probably H100 is the mechanical site plan.
Yep.
That might be the good starting point.
Okay.
There's
H100.
probably a few different places we can do this, but that's going to get you the orientation with the building.
Here we go.
Yeah, okay, so on the left side of the screen, So that part of the building, we have the gym, which is the main part of that, and then just to the left, we have the fire pump room, the main electrical room, and some storage. So just outside of the building, that is the generator. So in that area, you've probably seen some construction that has changed in the last couple of weeks. Just north of this is a transformer pad, and that has adjusted a little bit, but the generator is in this location. So adjacent to the generator, there's a door that's from the main electrical room. But otherwise, this part of the building is generally sort of back of house, as far as the building
Back
is.
of house is in other words, 20 feet from residential dwellings.
It is along
is
the
not-
western edge of the property line.
Back
Yeah.
of house, again, is 20 feet from residential housing. You have hundreds, if not multiple hundreds of feet on the other side of the property. You're putting generators and air conditioning units within feet of residentials. That is a recipe for disaster. It is not going to fly. We have had this conversation numerous times. There is no residential dwellings except for George Doherty on the other side of the property. Across the street on the north side is the townhouse. Across the street on the east side is the intersection and the emergency building. George Doherty is the closest on the southeast side. There is nobody near the property except for Lisa and Dana Pickup on the south side. And then you have Dover Auto, and then you have three residential dwellings in a row. So you're putting the loudest, most obstructive part of the project closest to the residential units. That makes absolutely no sense.
Jen, I remember talking about this not too long ago with Carl about some of these, concerns with the sound, and I know that the generator is obviously, it's off for the most part. It's only gonna turn on when, number one, I forgot how frequent it was, but I know that Carl can work
Once
with
a week. Once
Yeah,
a
it's
week.
gotta run once a week.
I remember that like it was yesterday.
Mhm.
That was 7 months ago. We had that conversation once a week.
Right.
Yeah, and I know.
John, we went, yes, I remember going through this. We talked about a possible portable generator that could come in and get hooked up. This has all gone through in site plan review. Now is not the time that we can change this.
How is that
This is
possible?
a done deal. We
We
cannot change
objected.
this
We
now.
objected to that. We objected to this 7 months ago.
I don't know who "we" is, John.
The Board of Selectmen. I'm on record.
Well, that never
I
got to
can-
the building committee, that never got to the designers, because this is the way the design has been. This is how the design has been approved and
I will-
bid.
I will
John, this
literally
is
give
too
you the
late to
minutes.
do this. I'm just telling you, this is too late to do this.
So
This is
So-
gonna cost an absolute fortune to move at this point. You've got to redesign this entire system. You got to redo the site plans. We've already gotten foundations done. This is too late.
this is absurd. Absolutely absurd.
Well, the
Okay,
other,
I don't know what to tell you.
you know,
But all I can say is that the cost and time it's gonna take to redesign this.
So you're telling me
This, we talked about, this went before planning board. This went before you guys. I'm not sure why you're not bringing it up. This could have
I
been
haven't
shot down
I haven't
5
let
months
you down.
ago.
This has never been something that literally
This entire plan was brought before the selectmen. You guys voted on it.
so perhaps we can look at it from a different direction. And is there some sound mitigation that can be done to help with this noise?
I thought we bought an enclosure for it, didn't we?
Well, yes, yeah, we have an
Didn't we?
enclosure for
Yeah,
it.
we bought a muffler, we bought an enclosure.
Mhm.
It's as quiet as it's gonna get. And
And
that, The
So,
other plan is to get rid of it and bring in a temporary generator, store it over
So
at Public Works.
as quiet as it is going to get, is there a measurement that it will, and I don't know if this is the right word, will it qualify, will it, from a disruption standpoint, and again, I don't know the right word, I don't know how it's going to come back to us, but I rest assured this is going to come back to us from a noise mitigation.
Okay.
I can literally read the complaint in my mind that this is going to be how it's going to be
Okay.
presented to us, that this is way above whatever level decibels, if there is such a thing, level of noise for being that close to a residential unit, blah, 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 blah. Is there some way that we can point to say, with this enclosure, with these processes, with these steps, we have taken everything humanly possible to mitigate the noise that is going to be disruptive to the people living in those units?
Okay, we have a code requirement to meet certain decibel levels at the property line. Do we not?
Yes.
Yes.
I would assume that this project has designed to meet code.
Yeah, I think what you were trying to get is, I think there's kind of two questions here. One is, have we done everything that we possibly can? And I would say with enough time and money, anything is possible. So I can't answer that question. What I can say is I believe that we are within the code requirements of the decibel levels for acoustical rating at the property line within the town of Dover. And I'm not sure if that's answering your question exactly, Mr. Jeffries, but that the location along the property line, you know, as you said, we have 20 feet. So the decibel rating, you know, the math does change depending on how far you are from the property line. So when you get 3 feet away, 5 feet away, 10, it does diminish. So with
All the-
enclosures,
And do we also not have landscape planned for that, for the edge there, for trees?
so that part of the site, and sorry, Elle, I had you pull up the mechanical drawings. So that part of the site is very narrow. So we basically have the
Yes.
parking lot is in the back. There's a narrow aisle that is really emergency vehicles only. So that part of the site, so there's a curb. You've got the driveway, another curb. Thank you. So you can see, so the transformer and electrical pad, you know, the part that says by others, that's the generator. You can see there's a couple trees just below. There's a curb along there. But yes, we are, you know, we're pretty close to the property line there. So there aren't large, you know, mature trees going in that area. There is, I think, some shrubs just below and a little bit more to the north.
I know
Okay.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I literally was there this weekend with a 25-foot tape measure to measure from the fence line of the neighbor's property to the concrete block wall that's being constructed right now on the end. So Ruth, what she just said is exactly true. There's no room for trees. There's no room for shrubs. It's basically the concrete wall and the curb cuts for the emergency vehicles to the curb cut or to the stone wall or to whatever's going to be the edge of the property prior to the number 6 Whiting Road, 4 Whiting, 3 Whiting Road, 5 Whiting Road, and 7 Whiting Road. So the back sides of those properties, I think, is just going to be a very small 2-foot stone wall, and there's literally no room for anything from a noise mitigation standpoint. But what the part of the answer is essentially what you said earlier when you said the decibel level, the acceptable decibel level for codes, blah 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 blah. That part. That's essentially what we need. And quite frankly, I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know what that decibel level is. Does anybody on the call? Does anybody on the committee know what that number is?
You mean what the statute is? What it
Yeah.
what it
What the
currently is?
statute is.
I don't know what your statute is. I guess what I would say is the topic of conversation here is the generator. So I think, as Dick had said, when it is being maintained, and so on the weekly basis it gets run, it's anywhere from 30 to 60-minute timeline. Clearly that's the time when it's making noise. The rest of the week it is not. Or if the power goes out and you need to use that. So I'm not minimizing the sound, but the measurement of the sound is only when it's being, maintenance or serviced. But that is something that you certainly can, measure. It's, I have an app on my phone. It's
I
something
understand
that
that,
you
but
can do.
what is the measurement? You've got the smartest people that we know in Dover who are on the building committee who deal with this every day. Luciana probably does this literally every day at Massport. There's got to be all kinds of noise regulations and restrictions and things that she's got to adhere to. So there's got to be somebody that knows, okay, it's going to make X number of noise per day per whatever. There's got to be somebody that knows this. What is it?
I believe it's 65 decibels at property line between 7 a.m. and 9 p.m. and 60 at night. I'm just looking
Okay. And it,
looking up the zone on Google. We should also check with Dover's zoning, whether sometimes zoning codes do address that issue. But I know the state building code also has it. And according to Google, it's 65, which sounds about right to me. And you have to have so many decibel, you can't raise it so many against the average noise level. So again, there's another calculation that the acoustic engineer or someone on the engineering team will have to do to make sure that the rating of the enclosure produces less sound than is required by the code. So I think you got to look at your submittal for the generator and the enclosure.
And we've just.
with or without
It's all
the
been
mitigation.
designed to code.
I'm not sure what mitigation you can have in this area. I'm just being honest. I mean, it's not a great location. We talked about it.
If it's not a great location, why'd we put it there?
Cost. It would be extremely expensive to have located on the other side of the building, away from the fire pump, which is what the generator is needed for. It's all because the town doesn't have water pressure, so we need a fire pump, and the fire pump requires a generator. That's why we have a generator.
Okay, well, the other thing is we don't really know, if there will be a complaint by the neighbor until probably the building is constructed and the generator exercises. We've done everything to code. Decisions were made a while ago in the whole design process. Is there any further discussion on this? John, thank you for bringing it up. Okay, if there isn't, is there any other future business? Or anything else anybody wants to bring up at this time?
The only thing is the next meeting anticipated Monday, April 8th at 6:30 p.m.
Okay. If there's nothing else, then is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion?
Second.
Okay, I'll poll the board. David Billings,
Yes.
Luciana,
Yes.
Ruth,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well. Thank you all very much.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dick.
Good
Well
night.
done
Thank you,
on
everyone.
Zoom.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.